Good evening, this is Prime Business and I am Emma Davis. Straight to our stories. The National Petroleum Authority says prices of petroleum products will go up at the pumps in the coming days, contrary to an earlier projection by the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana of a drop in prices. According to the authority, per their checks and analysis, petrol and diesel will go up by 3 and 0.78% respectively. However, price of LPG is expected to remain stable. Speaking to Joy Business, head of economic regulation at the NPA, Abbas Tasunti said it will take a while for various oil marketing companies to adjust their prices at the pumps.
We've been monitoring this for a while now, so if you look at what we expected for this window, which is a window that starts today, the 16th of January, we saw that the price of petrol on the world market increased, whilst the price of diesel also increased, and because it decreased a little. Because of this, our projections for this window show that prices are supposed to go up. I heard the projection that was made by COPEC. I was a bit surprised that they projected that petrol would drop, because for petrol, our projection shows that petrol is supposed to go up by about 3%, almost 4%, 3.63%. Diesel is supposed to go up by about 0.78%. It's LPG that we expected a drop. That's at the pump. So today being the first day of the window, we've not seen any significant changes on the market yet. Usually the marketers do not change their price on the first day of the window. So it will take a while before we see the prices being changed at the pump. It is not every time that when we project price increases, the market follows that. The market, because it's deregulated, like I've said, there are times when our projections may indicate that the price have to go up, but the marketers will maintain their prices. So it's a bit early to confirm whether the market will go up or down. For diesel, like I said, the change is very insignificant. It's petrol that we expect a significant increase, which is about 3%, a little over 3%.
There will not be haircuts on the $5.4 billion of bilateral debt expected to be restructured. These are some of the terms that Joy Business has picked up from the official creditor committee. The cut-off date for restructuring Ghana's debt is now pegged at December 2022 instead of March 2022. But speaking on a yet-to-air PM Express Business Edition, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta insists negotiations are yet to be finalized on the various terms.
Well, it was actually quite a bit of a miracle. And as you know, the cutoff date has always been sort of March 2020. This was really extended to 2022 December, which is just great. So everybody can now be a part of this, and we can get into bilateral negotiations with each one. I think it gives us some leeway the next 3 years with regards to servicing of the loans that we have, and that gives us space for our own fiscal space to be able to insist on the type of development that we want. What we have now is it gives enough financial assurance for the IMF to sit. We now are going to take our time to get into the nitty-gritties of the MOU. And so that's what is ahead of us. But at least the major hurdle of them realizing a holistic term sheet to us has been achieved. And we'll now work with them into the details of that.
So does the preliminary term sheet include the cut on the principal and the interest, and then the fact that there's still a freeze after 4 years before we start paying something as well? I
think those broad parameters, are in there, and I really don't want to be drawn into the details because those are really going to change. But what it does give us is it gives us momentum to now proceed a lot more aggressively with our Eurobond investors and commercial creditors. So from Monday, we'll have a team that is now going to begin those discussions.
So it now means that you are ready to go to the board, because the IMF had always argued that what they were looking for was that financial insurance. Now that this has been reached, Are you ready to go to the board? And is it now the 19th of January that the board is waiting for you to do that? How ready is Ghana for this board now that this has been done?
I think we've been ready waiting for the OCC because, as you know, we had a very successful review in which the bank, the fund itself, commented on it. So we've all been kind of biting our fingernails waiting for China and France and all the bilaterals to come into this conclusion.
Now, lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfred Bokping, has stated that Ghana will struggle to achieve debt sustainability by the end of the IMF program in 2026. Commenting on restructuring Ghana's debt, Professor Bokping expressed concern that it appears government is desperately seeking assurances to meet the IMF conditions for the $600 million second tranche funding, but the country may not achieve debt sustainability in the long term.
At the end of 2023, government has accumulated more than $2 billion. So what that means is that that money that could have gone to creditors was now available to the country simply because of the few not paying. But then if you look at it broadly, in the medium to the long term, then you begin to associate with the interjection made by your colleague that to what extent that this led to long-term debt sustainability, right, over a longer term. And that is where I believe that there is some level of risk that we have to bear in mind. It may satisfy the concerns of the IMF. Remember, the IMF program, whether we like it or not, is not so long term, right? 2026. 2026 is going to be difficult to say we have achieved debt sustainability. Probably a logical outcome would be ask for extension. So with that,
an extension for how long? Another 2 years or another 4 years?
Another 2 years or so. Remember when the program was approved on May 17, 2023, when we examined it, our conclusion was that this is a program that is designed with extension in mind. So it's not going to be a 3-year program, bear that in mind. Because if you look at the debt contour, the tragedy, and the country's own history, and the level of fiscal primary surplus that we will be able to record, bearing in mind an election year in 2024, then the possibility of fiscal slippages, there's real risk, right, that we have to bear in mind. But to the extent that this agreement on time scarcity paves the way for the board to meet and approve our first review, I think we can take that with both hands. Remember, that is all we have been looking for. But it doesn't mean we are out of the room.
Economist and political risk analyst Dr. Theo Champon is casting doubts on the finance minister's statement that the economy has turned the corner. According to him, the microeconomy is still going through challenges despite a relative stability in the macroeconomic front. Dr. Champon said the country has a long way to go in terms of economic recovery.
If you look at some of the indicators on growth, on inflation, and on other sort of high-level frequency data, yes, it does show that things are beginning to improve in relative terms, but they're still high, right? For example, with inflation, it's still well over 20%, and it still there's room for it to come down much further. But compared to where we were 2 years ago, things are in a much better shape, and you can look at all the core indicators, and that's quite clear. At the micro level is where the challenge is when it comes to translating some of these gains into growth, into kind of call it relative prosperity. The last 2 years has been tough for many households in the country, And even some of the gains that the government has been talking about, some of which I've also highlighted here, it's going to take a while for that to translate into improving livelihoods, and incomes. And I think for the government, they are trying to push for as much of the gains to be felt now, given that you have an election in December of this year, and people have been squeezed very, very hard for the last, 2 years. So there's a bit of rhetoric on the outside in trying to drum up and sort of make it look as though some of these gains are beginning to improve. But if you look at the cost of doing business, if you look at the high tax environment, to the point that now even electricity bills are going to be taxed. If you look at the fact that you're still having to pay in excess of 30% to borrow to be able to do business in the country, that is still constraining.
Still on the Fiscals, Associate Professor at Andrews University in the USA, Professor William Spripra, has cautioned government and other political parties to be mindful with their campaign promises this year in order to remain fiscally disciplined. His advice follows Fitch's warning that countries without access to international capital markets, including Ghana, will face some challenges. Reacting to this development, Professor Pripra maintained that the best way to surmount this hurdle is to remain fiscally disciplined.
How to get out of this? So without the international capital market giving us financing, it means that we may have to live within our means. Government may have to look at which project they need to cut or suspend to be able to use the tax that we generate within the country to be able to satisfy these or complete these projects. And simply put, as the IMF say, we have to slow down development, or we have to slow down some aspects of the growth of the economy. And that is why we see IMF or World Bank normally, when they see that your country is out of the international capital market, they ask you to reduce your expected GDP growth. So once you see the expectation of GDP growth is coming down, it gives you an indication that the country may have some liquidity challenges, and that is what we have experienced now. So the advice to get out of this is, and especially this is a political season, political parties must be careful with their campaign messages and promises, knowing that our tax revenue will not be able to help us to fulfill those promises. Promises a political party should give or may give must be within what is something that's within our budget. In the past, both parties who have managed Ghana, they've come out with huge promises. And when they come to implement, the funds are not there, then they go out to borrow. But this time, that we have learned our lessons, it is better to come out with a promise that you can fulfill within our means, the means of Ghana, not to try to borrow too much so that we find ourselves in the mess that we have now.
Rice and rubber value chains could rake in $100 million annually if properly invested in. That's according to Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, Kwesi Kobo. Speaking to Joy Business after Absa Bank Ghana received an award for its role in agricultural financing, Mr. Kobo indicated that agricultural lending has increased since the establishment of GESAL. He, however, stated that more can be done to improve the sector. Absence of financing limits the average acreage of cultivated farmlands, prospects of agro-processors and value chain actors. This impedes agricultural growth with consequences for the macroeconomy as a whole. In Ghana, the financial sector players involved in agricultural financing include banks, rural banks, savings and loans companies, and microfinance institutions. These financial bodies have been hesitant in investing in the agri sector due to risks. However, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, Fiscal, disclosed that agricultural lending increased due to the system put in place to support the sector.
The reality is that not only have we seen agricultural lending improving in quantum, but also seen some sectors change. Let me give you an example. Take the rubber value chain, for example. Yes, you may say rubber is not food, but it's agriculture. And those who process capital exports bring in needed foreign exchange. Since our operations in 2019, we have helped set up 2 indigenous rubber factories in this country. And if we're able to, through our assistance, help work with the banks, finance more rubber factories, that they can bring in minimum, and these are indigenous companies owned by Ghanaians, $50 million a year annually. I mean, that I believe is remarkable. And that is a clear manifestation of what we've done. Currently, we're also now pioneering a new model in our rice value chain. We've just done the first deal in our Afram Plains. We're about working on the second one, and we're hoping that, and that's in collaboration with DBG, with AFSA is also very much involved in one of them. And the idea is that we're hoping that by the end of the year, we should have leveraged finance of close to $50 million in a rice value chain.
As part of building and maintaining relationships with the financial institutions, GESAL awards its partners every year. For 2023, the winning banks were Absa Bank Ghana Limited, Fidelity Bank Limited, and Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited. Take a listen to some of the awardees.
It's a valuable partnership for us. We are committed to growing our exposure in the agricultural sector, and that's a stated objective all the way from the board of the bank through to management, to ensure that as a primarily indigenous bank, we are at the forefront of things that matter to Ghanaians. And we believe that if we continue to positively impact and understand that sector, then that dream of achieving a higher level of self-reliance and, if you like, not just food security, but employment, other bits and areas that agriculture impacts on, becomes a reality.
In as much as the agricultural sector is full of opportunity, it is also still very, very risky. We have to be very clear. It is an area that's risky. So when you are going into it, you need to be clear how you can support, what kind of solutions, what kind of structures, what kind of practical interventions you put in place. So one of the things we do as a bank is that we actually provide capacity building for these farmers around how to keep their books, how to manage their finances, separating personal finances from business finances, building the discipline. That also enables us, with our deep understanding of the sector, to actually put together credit applications that are very good quality, because we work together with the farmers, we work together with our partners to make sure that whatever we are putting on the table as an opportunity for financing is one that will be repaid. Always remember that the money the bank gives out is other people's money. It has to be paid back.
GESAL is a non-banking financial institution established to de-risk agricultural financing and stimulate increased lending to the agri sector. Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems Limited, Ghana's national payment system infrastructure provider, has announced a pioneering partnership with Visa, a global leader in digital payments. The partnership with GIPS will have GIPS process domestic transactions denominated in Ghana cedi with Visa cards issued in Ghana. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Accra, the CEO of GIPS, Achihesi, admonished customers to capitalize on the opportunities this collaboration provides by reducing the cost of engaging in international businesses.
Landmark partnership was signed in Accra today as GIPS, Ghana's national payment systems infrastructure provider, and announced a collaboration with Visa, the global digital payment giant. Speaking on the sidelines of the signing ceremony, the CEO of JIPS, Archie Hester, says this will reduce the cost of international transactions.
The cost will definitely go down because Visa will not need to pay Forex for the transactions. Don't forget that when you transact locally using Visa and MasterCard, you don't use Forex to pay for them. Your bank charges you in what? cedis. Now, if your bank should pay Visa for that service, they pay them using Forex. But this time, the Visa will be paying us for that service. And we are a Ghanaian entity. We would ensure that the cost of the services are at the lowest, are priced appropriately as possible. As you rightly know, you can judge from the prices that we charge for the services that we offer the industry.
Visa's Vice President and Head of West African Cluster, Andrew Waboy, expressed enthusiasm about the partnership's potential to empower local commerce and drive financial inclusion within Ghana.
You know, Visa has, we have well over 6 billion cards across the world. And we've built capabilities in over 200 markets. And we all have relatives that live in different parts of the world that want to send money either to us or even to our other family members in more remote parts of our countries. What this partnership can do, or what Visa can do, leveraging the partnership and the technology that we have, is that funds can be pushed from anywhere in the world into a Visa card. And now once those funds get into those Visa cards, those cards that fund can now be used either domestically or it can be used as cross-border.
This collaboration between GIPS and Visa holds immense promise for streamlining domestic financial transactions within Ghana, paving the way for a more vibrant and inclusive economy.
That'll be all for Prime Business tonight. My name is Emma Davis. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. But I leave you with news making waves on the international front.